Okay, do we have audio? Yes, we have audio. Hurrah and huzzah. Right. Okay. Right, bear with me. Okay, hopefully. Where are we? Okay. Can anybody hear me? Okay. Right, bear with me. Just doing this. Okay. Okay, so who do we have? We have Lex. And yes, you can hear me. Excellent. Good. Glad to hear it. I'm going to obviously have to edit all that out later. But anyway, hopefully this is going to work. And if not, it's been a valuable learning exercise. So, what the heck? Let's just crack on. So, ooh, bollocks. Okay, so yesterday we built the first part. Can we talk about this on shoot? Yes, there are already a few there are already a bunch of kinky. Please use keyframe frequency of force. What? What's keyframe? What? Keyframes are not being sent often enough, which can cause buffering. I don't know what any of that means. Yeah, okay. No idea what that means. Anyway, yes, there are already quite a few kinky channels on the Tube Review, so hopefully, or at least from what I can see, this shouldn't be an issue talking about this sort of thing. And if it is, then, well, clearly we'll have to rethink it, but certainly from what I've seen, kinky stuff is okay on YouTube as long as it's being done in a educational type manner. And obviously I'm not going to be showing anything particularly explicit or doing anything of that nature on the channel, so we should be okay. But yes, there's already a bunch of kinky DOMs and BDSM education channels on here, so I think we're going to be fine. Okay, so hello, good evening, and welcome to another incredibly exciting live stream with me, Sir Dax. Today we are going to be finishing off the Nissan GTR Nismo Lego car that we've been building, that we started yesterday. So we're going to finish that off today. Got pack 2 out on the table, and we've got some stickers to put on. I'm just putting together the wheels, so they are going to be ready to go. Some wheel trims, put them out of the way. And let's get these little bags open. There we go. Okay, so today I am going to be talking about one of the most common questions I get asked. How can I remember where I put my instructions? Here we go. So that's not what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about how can I make my partner more dominant in the bedroom, or at the very least, how can I encourage them to be more dominant in the bedroom. I'm going to go with some basics first, and then we'll look at some of the different ways that you can try to encourage your partner to be more dominant. Now, the first and most important thing to note is that this will only apply if your partner is at least in some respect already dominant. Now, there's a lot of different viewpoints on this. Hello, Marina5. Nice of you to join us. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, this is going to basically rely on your partner already having some kind of dominant trait, for want of a better word. Dominance, like submission, isn't something that most people can sort of turn off and on. There are some people that we call switch who are potentially dominant and submissive, and they sort of flip between the two roles depending on how they feel. But for the most part, being dominant or being submissive is basically a trait, a personality trait, and it's not really something that you can, or at least in my opinion, there are different schools of thought on this, but certainly in my opinion, it's not something that you can easily learn how to be. So this is not going to be sort of a chat on how can I make my partner dominant if they're submissive. It's more how can I encourage them to be more dominant if they already are to a small extent. So yeah, just bear that in mind. If your partner is submissive or not sort of inclined to be naturally dominant, then this probably isn't going to work so well, unfortunately. But you know, you don't know until you try, so hopefully that will be of some interest anyway. Okay, so basically, where are we? Assuming your partner isn't submissive, there are a number of things you can do to try and sort of encourage them to be more dominant, which is what we're going to go over. So the very first thing that I would suggest you do before sort of bringing this up with them is to actually sort of have a think yourself about what it is that you want. Figure out what you want, what you really, really want. If you're the one that's sort of trying to encourage your partner to be more dominant, then basically you're the one who's kind of going to be taking the lead, at least to begin with. I know it might sound sort of a little bit counterintuitive, but you know, you're the one who already sort of has some idea about BDSM, DS, submission, and so on. So it's going to be you kind of taking the lead to begin with. So hopefully by sort of talking over these things, you'll kind of awaken that dominant nature, that sort of dominant spirit in them. And then they will sort of eventually get the idea and sort of take over. But certainly to begin with, it's going to be you kind of having to drive it. So first things are going to be figure out what it is that you want, what submission means to you, what dominance means to you, and sort of what do you want the ideal dynamic with your partner to look like. Is it just going to be sort of rough sex, maybe some bondage, maybe some doctor-patient role play? Is it going to be sort of confined to the bedroom, or are you going to want to take it sort of outside the bedroom into your day-to-day life? It doesn't really matter what your goal is, what your to begin with, maybe your fantasy. But just kind of think about that, and think about sort of where you are now and where you want to get to. Obviously, once you sort of start going through this with your partner, then their wishes are going to be they're going to factor into it as well. But as I say, to begin with, you're the one that's going to be kind of driving it. So you're going to need to figure out what it is that you want, so that you can sort of steer the conversation. So put some thought into that, and that'll give you a good starting point. There's no right or wrong answer to any of this. Whatever feels good to you, whatever feels right to you, that is absolutely fine. Maybe also put in some specific thought into things that you'd like to start out with. So maybe it's some light bondage, maybe simple role play, like I said, doctor-patient role play, or a naughty student that needs to improve her grades, something like that. Just sort of start to think about a few things that you could do to kind of get the ball rolling, and help your partner sort of ease into it. The other important thing to do when you're starting out, and before you kind of raise this with your partner, is to do your research. Educate yourself, do your research, because again, you're going to be the one that's kind of driving the conversation, so you're going to kind of be their initial source of information on just what BDSM, DS, kink, and so on is. Assuming that everything sort of does work out, then absolutely you can go to some events, you can start sort of exploring things together. But to begin with, it's pretty much going to be you. So do your research, educate yourself, and then that will be an excellent starting position, because then one of you at least will know what's going on. I definitely recommend checking out kinkacademy.com, and also the new bottoming book by Dossie Easton. There's also the new topping book, which is excellent resource for DOMs as well. So check out both of those, and they are excellent starting points. Okay, so just putting on the start building up the back of the model there. So once you figure out what you want, what submission and being dominated means to you, then it's time to sit down and have a grown-up conversation with your partner. Now, you might not be used to having sort of open, frank conversations about sex, but if you want to get into BDSM, then you're going to have to get used to it, because there's lots of talking in BDSM, lots of talking about what you're going to do, what you want, what you don't want. It's very open and nuts. Put these two bits together, and I shouldn't have done. 1 second. So kink is lots. There is lots and lots of talking in kink. So it's definitely a good time to sort of start getting used to that aspect, and getting used to talking things through. So yeah, definitely sit down and have a nice grown-up conversation. The number one thing that you are probably going to have to deal with is basically reassuring them that they're not going to be abusing you. Thankfully, guys are getting the message that being rough, being physical with women is an bad thing. So, you're kind of going to have to deprogram them a little bit here, potentially. So, you're going to have to sort of figure out how you can explain to them that even though you're asking them to be potentially more physical, you are consenting to it. You're okay with it, you're encouraging it, and that is the key difference. That's kind of what makes this difference to abusive behaviour. Ideal opportunity to talk about limits at this point. Talk about your limits. That kind of shows them that you've thought this through. That you know what you're asking. You know what you're kind of not exactly getting into, but it shows that that you're taking this seriously. And obviously, you may not actually know what limits you have, and that is perfectly okay. That will come. You will figure things out as you go along, and it's the same with your partner. They may not know what limits they may have, and again, that is absolutely fine. The key thing is to just bear in mind that there is a difference between I have no limits and I just don't know what my limits are. So sort of try not to think of I have no limits. Try to think of I don't know what my limits are, and kind of go from there. You probably do have some limits. They just might not be immediately obvious, but for a lot of people, blood is a pretty common limit. You don't want to be cut, so straight away that is a limit, and most likely your partner probably doesn't want to cause you to bleed either. So straight away you've got two pretty easy limits right away there that you can kind of use as a starting point, and others will come with time. It is perfectly okay to not know what your limits are and kind of explore together and figure things out together. It's also, at this point, a good idea to bring in the topic of safe words. So, safe words, they basically give you kind of a safety net, if you like. So, you both know that if things start to go a bit too far, you've got a clear way, you've both got a clear way of saying that you want to stop. Now, it doesn't have to be complicated. I know there's kind of various sort of, comedy bits about, your safe word must be a minimum of 8 letters and contain one uppercase letter or a character and a punctuation mark. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but a lot of people like using the kind of where does this go? So a lot of people like using red, amber, green as a safe word, kind of system, safe word system. So red means stop, amber means slow down, or can we just have a quick chat, and green means carry on. But if you're starting out, then the easiest, simplest, most obvious safe words are going to be no, or stop, or enough. So as you're having this conversation, go over things like your limits, suggesting sort of that you've thought things through, what you do and don't want. Encourage them to think about limits, and also talk about safe words, and sort of explain to them that if things do get too much for you, then you will tell them to stop, because that's another sort of area where guys may need reassuring that they're not going to be sort of abusing you. Make it really clear to them that you will tell them if it goes too far. It's not a case of they're just you're going to say right, go for it, and they're going to be wailing away. Point out to them that no, it's not like that at all. You will tell them to stop if it gets too much, and hopefully they will understand then the difference between BDSM and abuse. Now, as you are talking about these things, I would encourage you to be realistic. Instead of things like and also in fact to that matter be quite specific. Instead of things like I just want you to be rough with me, or I want you to use me, give them sort of clear examples. So things like I want you to bend me over the kitchen table and spank my ass until I cry. I want you to tie me to the bed so I can't resist. I want you to use my mouth as a living fleshlight. All sorts of things like that. Be specific. Try and be creative, but give them things that they can visualize. Because again, if they're if you're both new at this, but certainly if they're the one that's kind of really new, then they may need a little bit of help just kind of understanding what exactly it is that's sort of being asked of them. So try and come up with, like I said at the beginning, think about sort of the sort of things, what it means to you. So try and come up with some examples of what you want them to do, to you or with you, and explain those sort of, and put those out there and let them kind of get an idea of what it is that you are looking for. I mentioned being realistic. Do sort of bear in mind that a lot of things in kink are, well, they take practice. They can be dangerous. That's quite a lot of the fun, but a lot of things do take practice. They can be dangerous, so be realistic. It's unlikely that you're going to be in a position to be doing complicated rope ties and things to begin with, or even something that's sort of a fantasy staple like choking. Choking is dangerous. It takes practice. You need to know how to do it safely. So don't be thinking that you're going to have them choking you out on your very first session, because that's not going to be well. I would encourage you not to try that. Basically, very easy to get it wrong, and then if your partner hurts you, then they're probably not going to want to do it again. So do be realistic and careful and moderate, I think, is probably an appropriate term to use there. So just again at the beginning, do your research, figure out sort of what are things that you can do with your partner quite safely, and go from there. Another thing that's sort of always useful to, or sort of good way of getting them interested, is to lean into things that they already do that you perhaps like, and encourage them to do more of that. Some good ones here are things like, if they have tried a light spanking on the ass, get them to continue that. Doggy style, you can really lean into saying, oh, when you take me from behind, it makes me feel so submissive, and I just love being pushed into the mattress, and lean into that. If they like doing you from behind, then lean into that, encourage that, and that will give them a little bit more confidence that they're on familiar territory. So encourage them with things that they are already familiar with. Same thing, also blowjobs. If they ever hold your head or something while you're blowing them, lean into that as well. Say, oh, I love when you use my mouth. So try and sort of think of examples of things that they already do, and sort of encourage them to focus, to do more of that, and lean into that, because then they will feel they'll feel a little bit more comfortable with things that they are already familiar with. They may be a little bit nervous about doing things involving sort of ropes and floggers and cuffs and so on, but if you can sort of say, highlight something that they already do, then they're going to feel much more comfortable. So as you're having this conversation, highlight things that you want, things that you've thought about, go over consent, limits, safe words, and then kind of wrap it up maybe with a little bit on aftercare, and explain to them that it's not just a case of having an aggressive session and then kind of it ends and you're sort of maybe they might sort of think that it could get a bit awkward. Explain to them about aftercare and how that is how you kind of talk things over, you kind of decompress, you go back sort of from being dom and sub to being husband and wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend, and that's how you kind of talk things over and reassure each other, and again it kind of helps to get the message across that it is not something abusive and unpleasant. It is something that's actually quite civilized in some respects. So explain about aftercare and what that will involve, and how it will help you kind of grow as a dom and sub. So hopefully all that talking about how you'd like to be nominated will have had some impact. Pun slightly intended. So then it's time to move things along. So I've sort of covered my sort of my suggestions to kind of take them into a sex shop and have them kind of visualise what you would look like in some of the lingerie and everything. I've gone over that quite a bit. So we'll leave that for today, and we'll look at a few other sort of things that you can try and do to kind of encourage them along a bit. So one of the things that you can try and do is just kind of get them used to being a little bit more in charge. So things like maybe have them pick out the underwear that you're going to wear to work, for example, one day. Sort of let them choose what you're going to wear. Obviously, nothing may well be an option that you want to give them, and start getting them to get used to having the power to tell you what they want you to do, and then you can send them selfies throughout the day with you wearing or not wearing whatever outfit, whatever lingerie it was that they picked for you. In the bedroom, there are a few things that you can do to try and encourage them. Things like, a good starting point is when you're performing oral on them, instead of doing it with them lying down on the bed, try doing it with them standing and you kneeling in front of them. Obviously, kneeling is the absolute stereotypical submissive position. So have them standing, you kneeling in front of them, and that kind of, straight away that's putting them in a power position over you, as opposed to lying down and being literally on the same level. Another approach, and also that gives that sort of, you can, as you're performing, you can Also, maybe guide their hands onto your head, into your hair, and kind of encourage them to guide your head and your mouth as you are performing oral on them. What else can you do? Bending over. Bending over is again another great submissive type posture, pose. So try bending over in front of them with both directions asked to them, and also again in a kind of submissive, almost kneeling or begging position. Body worship is another good one, so that could be massaging them, kissing them all over, bathing them even, in the shower, run them a bath, all that kind of stuff. Basically, we're talking service type activities. Where are we going here? So that's going to go in here. What else can you do? A good one. One of my sort of big recommendations is, and excuse me sounding a little bit like an act at Glastonbury here, but make some noise. Really, really, if you can, go wild. Encourage them vocally. Lots of moaning and whimpering and oohs and ahs, and basically really, really lean into the positive verbal feedback. Particularly, throwing a few "yes, daddy," "oh, just like that, daddy," or "sir" or "master" or whatever feels comfortable. But throw a few of those in, and really just kind of lean into it. Be very very positive in terms of feedback as they are going about their domly business. But yeah, really lean into it and encourage them vocally to really egg them on, basically. Make lots of noise. Really lean into that, and that will, basically you're being a cheerleader, and that will really sort of give them the sort of feedback, the positive encouragement that they need, and they will. I'm sure they'll get the message after a good few "yes sir," "harder daddy," all that good stuff. What else? One thing that is worth circling back to, and I sort of briefly mentioned this earlier, is do take things slowly, particularly if you're both new. So don't just kind of jump straight in to them spanking the heck out of you. Start off gradually and slowly, and build things up, both for yourself and for them. You may not know what your tolerances are. You may not know how much of a hiding your ass can take, and they're not going to know how. They're not going to know sort of how strong to be, how much force to put behind each swing, for example. So start off slowly and remind them that you have safe words and that you promise to use them. In fact, I would nuts. I would encourage you to practice with using safe words in the first few sessions, both for yourself, so that you know that they understand what the safe word is and how to proceed, and also to remind them that yes, if things do go too far, then you will let them know, and there is a way of dealing with it. So yeah, basically use your safe words, maybe do some safe word drills. That's something I always like to do with new clients, is just basically have them safe word for me, and then I can show them, what happens when they safe word. So we will stop, we will talk it over, and then assuming that they're okay to continue, then we will continue. So that's something that's useful to get sort of both of you in the habit of doing. So practice using your safe words, but yeah, definitely take it slowly, particularly with things like impact play, spanking, flogging, or whatever you're going to start with. Take it slowly, and you'll both be able to get a feel for how everything works. Also, when you're doing your general sort of research, do grab one of the many impact play safe zone diagrams and go over that with your partner, because there are places that you definitely should avoid. Mainly joints, anywhere where the bone is very near the skin. So we're talking spine, we're talking joints, knees, ankles, elbows, wrists. Avoid all those areas. But yes, so get yourself one of the many safe zone charts and go over that with your partner and help them understand where they can and can't be hitting you. It may well be that even with sort of the best of intentions and everything, all the various plans, that something does maybe go a little bit too far, a little bit wrong in these early sessions. Basically, again, as you being the one kind of driving it, I'm afraid you are going to be the one that's kind of going to be in charge of potentially making your dom feel better. If something's gone a little bit too far and they've hurt you, normally it would be kind of on the dom to reassure the sub and make everything better. But because you've kind of been the one driving it, and you've kind of been encouraging them to do things which are new to them, then yeah, even though potentially they may have hit you a bit too hard and you're the one kind of hurting, they're the one that's going to be potentially feeling really, really crappy about it. So it may be that you do need to sort of be a little bit more of the in charge one to begin with, until they sort of are better at understanding what's going on, and then you can sort of properly sort of switch over to them being the dom and you being the sub. And yeah, basically go from there. Talking about things is definitely the way to start, though. Do make sure that you kind of go over, do your research, go over things with them, explain to them that it's not abuse, it's consensual. Remind them that with the safe words, both of you can stop at any point if you want to, and also remind them that with limits you can be sure that both of you are doing things that you are definitely okay with. And yeah, basically do your research and have grown-up conversations. And hopefully, once sort of you've been able to talk things over and show them what it is that you're looking for, the sort of things that you enjoy, then hopefully not too much longer after that, then they will be comfortable to kind of pretty much sort of take over and go from there. So yeah, that's basically my sort of overview of how you can encourage your partner to be more dominant in the bedroom. Again, this does all rely on them having some kind of dominant trait to begin with. If they're not in any way kind of naturally dominant, then it's not going to work. You can't. Well, as I said, there's different schools of thought on the matter, but my personal opinion is you can't make someone dominant if they don't already have these sort of dominant traits already as part of their personality. But anyway, if somebody is naturally submissive, then you're not going to be able to make them dominant, I'm afraid, and that's just not going to work terribly easily. But if they do have some dominant traits, then hopefully that will help them kind of realise them, and you can encourage them and go from there. So that is pretty much it. We are very nearly finished with the build. I have absolutely no idea how many people are watching, if any, so I'm just going to carry on. If anybody does have any questions or comments or feedback, then by all means do chip them in the chat, and if not, I'm just going to carry on building this and going from there. La 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 dum 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 dum. There's like this bit here. So I have no idea even if the stream's still working. This is the first time I've tried streaming on YouTube, so it could have all gone horribly wrong. And oh dear, why is he mad at you? What did you do? Okay, I'm going to finish up here, and then I will... Okay, I'm just finishing up here. Do you want to, Lexi, do you want to DM me what's going on? I'm nearly done. Just need to finish this bit here. Okay. Done that bit. This bit, I need to put the... He says it... Well, if he says he isn't mad, then he isn't mad. Don't... He's a big boy. If he says he isn't mad, then take his word for it. Don't try and... Don't try and, you know, make him mad if he isn't. If he says he isn't mad, then he isn't mad, okay? Alrighty, nearly done, just need to do the wheels. La 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 la. Okay, and what wheel trims shall we go for? Let's do these ones. Okay, we are now done. This is the Nissan GTR Nismo. That's actually some sort of nice detail on the front here, and I think that's very nice on the back. That is very GTR. That back, that back is very Nissan GTR. Okay, alrighty, that is it for the first YouTube live stream. I have no idea how well that's gone. I don't know if I'm going to call that a success or not. But anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and follow and I don't know, whatever it is that you do on the YouTubes. No, Squishy, no, I did not. I completely mucked up, and when I went to send you the link, that was an hour ago, and I didn't click send. So that is entirely on me. That the link has been sitting in the WhatsApp chat for the last hour or so because I didn't click send. So that is totally on me. Thank you for thank you for coming in. But yes, I think what I'm going to do is take some time to kind of set up the YouTube channel and everything a little bit better, and I will schedule a stream for next week, and that way I can promote it on Twitter, and hopefully we will make a slightly better go of it. But anyway, for a first attempt on YouTube, I think it's worked. Oh, you're watching. Oh, okay. In that case, thank you. But yes, I think what we'll do is I'll put some effort into getting the channel properly set up. I will start to schedule streams, and then hopefully we can be a little bit more proactive and a little bit more organised. Okay, so anyway, thank you very much for watching and joining the chat. And yes, don't forget to like and follow and all that sort of stuff that you do with the YouTubes, and I will see you next time.